Little Pilgrim's Progress, Part 2, Chapter 78, in Vanity Fair. It was a bright summer evening, and the city looked beautiful in the light of the setting sun. The buildings were all large and grand. Pretty flags fluttered upon the towers and housetops. The townsfolk wore rich clothes, and even little boys, no older than James and Joseph, were dressed in suits of silk and velvet and wore large caps with long, drooping feathers. "I should like one of those caps," whispered Joseph. Phoebe heard the whisper, and she took the little rabbit's hand in her own. "Don't be foolish, Joseph," she said. "The nice clothes do not make the boys any happier. Your white suit is really more beautiful than the brightest of these, and you know you could not be received at the gates of the celestial city if you wore clothes belonging to the wicked prince." The town was less busy in the early part of the evening than at any other time of the day. Most of the young animals were tired of playing and lay idly in sunny corners, talking and teasing each other. They laughed at the pilgrims, but they did not crowd around them or try to prevent their passing through the streets. And even the grown-ups took very little notice of them. They soon reached the marketplace where poor little Faithful had suffered. After crossing this wide space, Greatheart led them into a quiet street and stopped before the house of his friend, whose name was Mason. Mason had no sons of his own, and he was always pleased to see Greatheart. Come in," he cried. "You know that you are welcome. How far have you traveled today?" "From the house of Gaius," replied Greatheart, "and it has been so hot upon the plain that we are all tired and shall be very glad if you can give us lodging and some food." "I will give you the best I have," said Mason. He led them into a large, cool room where they could sit quietly and rest while he ordered a meal to be prepared for them. When the supper was nearly ready, the kind innkeeper called his eldest daughter, Grace, and desired her to go to the houses of the king's servants and tell them that some pilgrims had arrived in the city and were staying with him. Grace did so, and presently several of these good servants came in, and the evening was spent in talking of the king and of all that he had done for Christiana and her companions. In the morning, Mason begged Greatheart to remain at his house for a few days, and when that time was over, a message was brought from the king desiring the pilgrims to stay in the city for some weeks longer. Mason and his two daughters, Grace and Martha, were kind to their guests, and the children soon found friends among the king's servants. As for old Mr. Honest, feeble-minded and ready to halt, they were all glad to have a long rest before continuing their journey. The boys were able to make themselves useful in many ways, and the girls spent their spare time as they had done at the Palace Beautiful, by sewing for the poor. For, although most of the animals in Vanity Fair were richly dressed, there were some who had wasted all their money and were clothed only in rags, and these miserable creatures were thankful to anyone who could help them. Grace and Martha used to visit many of them and take them food and new garments and tell them of the king and his goodness. Christiana and Mercy and Phoebe were glad to help in this good work, so that the days they spent in Vanity Fair were both busy and happy.